Hey guys, how are we all doing? It is December 6th and we are doing our Luke 6 reflections. I just read Luke 6 and wanted to share a little bit about what I read. I hope you're reading along. Um, this has been actually, to be honest, this for me has been just a form of discipline so that I can continue to read and it's kind of keeping me accountable. I do this with my kids. My husband and I would do this with our kids each night. But it's also keeping me accountable to kind of dig deeper into the scripture, into what I'm reading. So we're in Luke 6, and in here, Jesus talks about different things. It's good to hear words from him. I think a lot of times we hear about the Bible, but reading this, we can really hear what Jesus has to say to us. And here he talks about different things, being Lord of the Sabbath. And this is where he also calls his disciples. And that's what stood out to me. So when I read this, I just kind of pick out things that are interesting to me, that kind of stand out or that speak to my heart. And of course, it was right before Jesus picked his disciples. It said, verse 12, on those days, Jesus went out to a mountainside to pray, and he spent the night praying to God. And when the morning came, he calls his disciples to him. So before we make a big decision, I think it's important to spend time with God, talking to him about it, just sitting with him. It said he spent the night praying. And I think a lot of times we want to do stuff and we don't want to stop and pray and ask God what he thinks and spend time with him and ask him for direction. So I really love that was what Jesus was doing. And in doing that, that's where he picked the 12, including Judas Iscariot, who became his traitor. So in that time he spent praying, God showed him exactly who would be part of his 12, including the one who would betray him. And I think that's like, wow, that's deep. Because sometimes, you make decisions and God leads you somewhere and you're like, how did this happen? But sometimes, he's leading you to something that may not be favorable in the eye, like as it's happening, but it's working out for good because of him, because he picked Judas, that's why he went to the cross. And because of that, he saved all of us. So God works all things together for good. So that's something I learned in reading Luke 6. And another thing that really stood out to me was also verse 27, where he talks about loving your enemies. He says, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who mistreat you. And this is, love your enemies, bless those who curse you. Anytime anything happens in life, I always remember the words of Jesus. And his kingdom is like an upside down kingdom. It's not the way we do things. It's not the way we would normally react. Like if someone does something bad to you, you do something bad to them. But Jesus is like, no, that's not how I do things. Love those who love you, who don't love you, and who mistreat you. And that is how we shine a light. That is how we walk like Christ. That's how we change the world. And I think that's so beautiful, reading these words. And it says in verse 32, if you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. So it really, you know what I think it is? It takes the love of God and only the love of God to be able to do these things, to be able to love someone who hates you or who's mistreating you. There's no other way to explain it but the Spirit of God in you, allowing you to love on people who are doing you bad. That to me is, it says in the Bible in a different place, by that men will know that you're my disciples. That's how you know the sign of a true Christian. And finally, the one that kind of struck me and strikes me all the time is that don't look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye. Verse 41. So if in this season you're getting caught up with what people are doing, if it's getting on your nerves, if you're like, why are they doing that? Remember this verse. Look at the plank. Pay attention. Pay more attention to the plank that's in your eye than the speck that's in your brother's eye. So that's really what I got from that too. It's like, okay, Simi, Stop focusing on people's flaws, which are nothing. Focus on the planks in your own eye, like the things that I need to be dealing with and focusing on, not like watching what somebody else is doing, but really paying attention to my heart and the things that I need to correct, which every day I have enough to do every day. I don't need to spend time nitpicking someone else. So those are some things I got from it. It's beautiful. Please read it. And if you don't like to read, just turn on your YouVersion Bible app. It will play it for you so you can listen to it as you're doing something else or like washing dishes. I do that a lot because it helps me just hear the word of the Lord. So yeah, those are my reflections for today. I hope you guys are joining along, and by God's grace, I'll see you here tomorrow. So have a great night. Bye.